How's everybody doing today? So, today on Quality Time, I appreciate everybody for joining me today. Today on Quality Time, we'll be talking to the author of The Journey of Unbecoming, Keba Richardson. Keba was actually one of the first guests on Quality Time last year when we first started Quality Time. She's one of the first people that I interviewed about her book. And she's one of the first ones to really just kind of believe in what I was doing, right? I just sent her a message one day. She was promoting her book in 2020. I'm sorry, I apologize, Kiva. She had released her book, and I reached out to her and said, "Hey, I got this idea of what I'm trying to do with these interviews, and we were all kind of on lockdown at the time." And I said, "Well, we'll just jump on IG Live and we'll talk about the book if you are open to doing that." And she was gracious enough to, have me interview her about her book. I read her book, and then we set the interview up, and she spoke to me about her book. So I really always appreciate the fact that she really believed in, just a stranger telling her that I wanted to interview her about her book. And she said, no problem at all. So we spoke about the book, like you said, 2 years ago. And she actually updated the book, which I think is really a genius idea. She has continued to grow as a person and as a businesswoman. So she updated the book to just show what's been happening since the end of the book, which is a genius idea, right? Because a lot of times when you look at an autobiography, it's an end to the story. You might not hear from the author anymore. And she really just went another route and decided to update the pre-existing text to give you just some more insight on things. And I think that's a really genius idea. So we'll be talking to her about the updated version of The Journey of Unbecoming, as well as, what's been going on in her life since the release of the original book, what's changed, what stayed the same, what path has she continued to go on. Because The Journey of Unbecoming, and you see the cover has butterflies on it. And central theme is, shedding, becoming what all the ugly stages, quote unquote, ugly stages that happen before a butterfly fully forms into a butterfly, right? So, going through the cocoon, going through the painful stages of losing skin and changing who you are. And it takes that theme and takes it to, kind of on a human level, and change that we all go through in life to become kind of the final stages that we become when we turn into adults, and then we really start to grow through the pain and through a lot of the different changes that we have to go through. Some pain self-inflicted, some situational, some societal, that we all go through as people. So we'll be talking to her about the book and all the details that went into the book. Now, of course, we start off by saying what I'm reading currently and what I'll be reading next. I am still reading A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest J. Gaines. This book is a fiction book. It's an amazing book. It is set in the 1940s in a small New Orleans community. And it follows a young man named Jefferson who has been sentenced to die because of a armed robbery that turned into a murder case that he was involved in. I don't want to give too much of the story, but he has, when he was sentenced to his to death penalty, his lawyer called him a hog and said that killing him would do no good, would really do nothing to society because you're putting down a hog, and said that he didn't understand right from wrong because he wasn't even a human being, right? And his grandmother wanted him to know that he's a man before he passed away. So she sent, his godmother, she sent another young man to visit Jefferson in the jail to get it across to him that he's a man, that he's not a hog, and it just it goes through the different changes and the different kind of stories of everybody involved in this community. The young man that's sent to help Jefferson, he's a teacher, and so he has a different outlook on a lot of things. He moved away and came back to the Cajun community, so he has a different outlook on things from the beginning of the book to where I am now. I am on page 145 now, so I'm nowhere near finished. I have about 100 pages to go. A great book. I said I would read a fiction book next because I had read, so many autobiographies, kind of over back to back to back, autobiographies, historical books. So I wanted to read a fiction book to just exercise the imagination. We spoke on a previous quality time. We spoke about how imagination is so revolutionary. So, I wanted to exercise that by reading a fiction book. And then the next book that I'm going to read, I actually don't know yet. I haven't decided yet. So this is the book I'm reading now. The book that I finished is Stand Up, Struggle Forward. So, we'll see what we read next. Maybe I might read this Black Fatigue right here. This is a book, How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. I'm also still reading Ready for Revolution by Stokely Carmichael. It's a very, very big book, so I'm still reading this. I just take small breaks from reading this. This is an amazing book as well, though. So that's what I'm reading now. Please feel free to jump in the comments there. Tell me what you're reading now, what you just finished reading, what you'll be reading next. But let's not hold up too much longer, and let's bring on Keba Richardson, the author of The Journey of Unbecoming. Keba, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. I can't complain at all. Summer's coming to an end. My baby's going back to school soon.
Oh,
So
I'm so out of the loop. I'm like, my son is grown now, so see, I don't know nothing about. Oh, Tasha Hill says she's reading Keba's book now. Thank you, Tasha, for the support. And my highest desire is that you are enjoying the book. So I got to get you a new I got to get you a new edition because we actually changed the cover to show the journey of the butterfly from caterpillar to chrysalis to full grown butterfly.
I got the OG version.
Right. That is the journey that I feel like we come here to take, that the butterfly is our mirror to, the journey we're all supposed to take in life. We come into this realm and we kind of forget who we are because we get indoctrinated into so many belief systems. And so it's almost like we have the magic in us, but we're taught to seek outside of ourselves. And, we have to go into that stage of isolation and quietness and really going into the dark, and the dark being synonymous with you facing your own demons, you doing shadow work, you awakening into deeper levels of yourself so you can remember who you are and the magic that you already have within you. And you can tap into that and transform your life and really manifest anything you desire. So I feel like the butterfly perfectly resembles that journey.
And I agree. I hadn't really known much about butterflies. I started reading the book, and then it started to really all make sense.
Yeah,
That's the theme that you take in the book, and you do explain that.
absolutely.
Now, for anybody who has not heard of the book, if you don't mind just kind of giving a brief kind of breakdown of the book that you wrote here, The Journey of Unbecoming.
So the book is called The Journey of Unbecoming, and in the updated version, we actually added the subtitle, A Guide to Living Authentically, because I feel like that is the journey, us getting back into alignment with who we are authentically at the core and living from that perspective and being able to really have whatever we desire to have in life. And so the book, the title I came up with because we're programmed to believe we're supposed to try to become all these things. So we get very much attached to titles and status and things like that. And in my experience, as I started to become more aware, I realized that the journey is not about becoming anything. It's really more unbecoming, unlearning, unprogramming the mind, letting go of things, letting go of perspectives and beliefs and habits that are hindering us and keeping us like in this mental prison, and unlearning, unbecoming,
Right.
and simply being who you are authentically at the core. And most of us are really disconnected from that, and we don't even realize we are. And that's what it was for me. So this book is me sharing my story, but in a way for you to use it as a guide to help you get on your path of self-awareness and awakening spiritually and into deeper levels of yourself, because we have all the answers we need within. And that's a place we're never taught to go. You know, we're taught to literally seek outside of ourselves for everything, when it's like, what about going inward? What about getting quiet and getting to know yourself and what your purpose is and what you truly desire without anyone else's outside opinions? Just tapping in with your own self. So that's what the journey is about. And you know, this was a process I went through in my life, and at the time didn't really understand what was happening. And I wrote the book because I'm like, I wish this is something I could have had when I was going through this journey, because I went through it and it was like I felt like I was by myself. Like, what is going on? Like, what's happening in my life? Things are falling apart, but it was really things coming together. And that's why I used that common thread of the butterfly throughout the storyline.
Okay. Now, one thing about this autobiography, and autobiographies, memoirs are my favorite genre, right?
Yeah.
So, one thing that I noticed that kind of separates this from a lot of other autobiographies that I've read is that the co-stars in your book, right, the people that you write about, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when you read an autobiography, the people that the other people aside from the person who wrote it, they're
Mm-hmm.
either gone, dead and gone, or they're so far separated from the person that the writer cannot get any direct feedback from that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your book, all these people, is different, right?
Right.
So, talk to me about kind of the the bravery you had to have to write this book and to expose these things to people that are still either in your life or they're close enough to your life where you can get feedback from.
Right. So that's another reason why we added the subtitle, A Guide to Living Authentically, because this book was like therapy for me. This was me being able to not only align with my authentic self, but like you said, having the courage to share it and to literally not care about what anybody else would think about it. And you know, I didn't name people, but if you are a part of my story and you read that book, you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? So, like I said, there was a lot of backlash, but I was already mentally prepared for that. So, you know, people read a book and it's like, oh man, I didn't. A lot of times we don't even realize the role they play in your life or how you perceive them with your, with your lens. So, it was definitely my mom felt away for sure, but it's like this is my story and I'm not lying. So that's the one thing nobody can say who was threaded through the story. What I'm
Yeah,
saying is true, right? And I could have said a lot more, but the book wasn't really to bash, or I'm just simply sharing my story and this is the role you played in it. So it did take a lot of courage, but I was just okay with that. I was okay with, if I'm going to write a book and share my story, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm not going to put out something that's not real. And that's the one thing nobody can say is like, I'm telling the truth and that what I'm stating is real, that it's from the heart and it is what it is. And so few people did feel away for sure. For sure.
yeah.
And
I'd imagine.
everybody's still living and still close enough to where, like you said, they could give feedback on it. But it was really only two people that I would say felt a way. And I was already mentally prepared for that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading it, and I was like, because it's so different. Because like I said, a lot of autobiographies, you'll see where they're right. Well, this person's gone now, and
Right.
So you don't have that feedback. So I always wondered when I was reading it, like, how did she prepare herself to get some of that feedback, to get some of that, I don't want to say backlash, but to get some of those, just response from people in the book. Like you said, you don't name them, but, they know who they are. You know what I mean? So, like, how'd you prepare for it?
I felt like this. As long as I'm sharing my truth and I'm doing it with pure intentions, which the intention is just to share the story, but that's not where the focus of the book is on. The focus of the book is not on anybody else. It's on my journey. And there's also an upside to it. So I'm telling you certain things, but I'm then also sharing through me becoming more aware, having grace for people. So like, say for example, my mom, I knew she would be somebody who would read the book and feel away, right? She loved the book in the beginning. But of course, as I go into deeper things that happened with my mom, of course she felt away, but she couldn't say, what you said, you lied. It's just like more of
Perspective.
And it's hard for people to take accountability for stuff. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people have selective memory. I have a really great memory. That's something I've been known for my whole life, like having a really great memory, like being able to remember things in very vivid detail. And so it was just more so that, and even with, like, for example, my mom, how I displayed things about my mom so people could see how the experiences in my life formed based on the kind of mother I had and the kind of programming I received as a child, right? So it's almost like I want you to look at, this is how my upbringing was, and you see how this affected my decision-making process later in life. But then you also see, as I began to become aware and I started healing and doing, my own inner work, that I was able to actually have grace for my mother and understand better, oh, this is why she moved the way she moved. Even though I didn't agree with it, I have grace for it, where it's no grudges. I'm not bitter about anything. I'm just simply sharing the story. And so I was already prepared for people to take certain things personally. And it's kind of like I'm at a point in my life where I just really understand that. So I wasn't worried about it. She was upset for a while, but she's okay.
Okay.
She's
Now,
good.
another thing that I really appreciate about this book is that you didn't wait to write it and release it, right? You wrote it while changing. Well, not while, but not in the middle of changing your life, but you wrote it as you went about changing your life.
Right.
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 So you didn't wait until, hey, look, I'm a multimillionaire now. Let me tell you how I did it. You just kind of said, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. What was the decision like that made you say, I need to put this out now, as opposed to kind of displaying it as a finished product?
To be honest, I never thought I would write a book about my life. I am a very private, introverted person in real life. You know what I'm saying? I spend a lot of time alone, very small circle of people that I associate with. And a lot of stuff in that book, my own family, like, I never knew this. My siblings were like, I never knew this happened. You know what I'm saying? Very private. So it was scary. And it wasn't really my idea, to be honest. And I talk about this in the books. Like you said, I'm giving you the experience blow by blow. You know what I'm saying? So what happened was, I got invited to come pitch a digital entrepreneurship program to a nonprofit organization that serves at-risk youth and men who have just come home from prison, right? So I'm talking about this program, and I briefly share my story, just a part of my story where I talk about my father. He spent 20 years of my life in prison, and I talked about how that impacted me. And I talked about how, men get home from prison, they don't have other solutions. They don't know how to use their brilliance basically on the other end of the spectrum. So I'm like, I feel like this is something that they need to know how to do, how to get online and create income for themselves. And so after the presentation, one of the board members just was like, you have a great story. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And I'm like, a children's book maybe, but not about like a book about me. No, like I have no interest in that at all. So he kind of was just like, you have a great story. And I honestly felt like, well, no, I need to live a little bit more. I need to experience more. I maybe write a memoir when I'm 50. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's like, you got a great story now, and this story can actually inspire a lot of people right now. Like, you don't need to live a little more. Like, you already have a story within itself. And he hadn't even heard my full story. So I'm kind of like, nah, I'm good, you know. But thought about it for a couple of days, and then actually went home and realized on my vision board, like, I'm like, I got writing a book on here in several different ways, several different places, right? On several different vision boards. So then I started thinking, and this guy who approached me was actually a New York Times bestselling author, right? So he's like, if you ever decide you want to write the book, I can coach you through the process. I'm like, bet. So I thought about it, and I'm kind of just like, now this is something I actually manifested. This came to me without me having to really effort, just by being in alignment, like, with my purpose. And so I said, this is not a coincidence, right? I run right into a New York Times bestselling author who's also a book coach. And it's kind of like I started thinking about my story, and I'm like, I have been through some things, and I do feel like I have some wisdom I can share that will help people, right? And so I made it not about me and being like, oh no, I don't want people in my business, because that was the first thought. I can't have people in my business. It's certain things about my son don't even know about. I'm just like, I can't put my business out there. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it, and was like, okay, let's do it. So that's how me writing the book came about. And it was just almost like, you don't need to wait. Like, people can benefit from the part of the story now where you're at currently. So I just thought about, you know, a lot of things I had been through. And I'm like, yeah, this is a book I wish I would have been able to read, like, when I first started my journey of, like, spiritual awareness and really tapping in.
Yeah. And, you know, you spoke about, like you said, like, you know, this parts of the book that your son didn't even know about. Was there a moment where you kind of had like, okay, I'm sharing too much? And if it was a moment like that, how did you work through that?
My mindset the whole time was this: if I'm going to write a book, it has to be real. Like, I can't put out something that's not authentic. Like, it has to be real. It can't be sugarcoat on it. And I also knew, like, this isn't a tell-all. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't want this to just be let me tell all, let me expose type thing. Just genuinely, this is how my life was going, and what prompted me, what was the catalyst to me becoming aware and tapping in and really transforming my whole life, right? So it was certain things I was very skeptical about sharing, but it's kind of like, how can I put out a book where I'm sharing my story and not tell this? So I had to make peace with that. Like, you know, I share my time as an exotic dancer. That was something my son never knew. My son is grown. He never knew I did that. You see what I'm saying? Because I was a dancer when I was in college, and the way I carried myself, it was very low key. No, most people did not know this about me. So my son literally never knew that I did this. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my son and let him know, like, this is what was going on. Yeah. Right? Things that went on in my relationship, you know, one of the main relationships I talk about in the book, because that relationship played a huge role in me tapping into myself. That relationship was like one of the biggest things that got me on my path. Well, leaving that relationship, I should say. So I knew, like, people are going to find out things about my ex-husband that they did not know, because I was always a very private person. Never shared my personal business, right? And so what ended up happening was, writing the book was like therapy for me. It helps me release so much of this stuff and just get it off me. Like, ooh, it's out there, right? And then it's like, hey, I'm putting my story out there. Nobody can ever try to use my past or anything about me against me, because I willingly put this out there, right? I remember one time my oldest sister, like, asking me that, like, oh, you know, you're building a brand, you're building a business, like, you know, people are following you. Like, what if people find out you used to dance? Like, what do you think people would think? And that used to be something I kind of struggle with. To be honest, there were certain things about myself that I used to feel like, well, what if people did find that out? But then once I decided to write the book, I'm like, it's a part of my story. I don't care if people know, and I'm telling you the real deal about it. So I'm not glorifying it. I'm telling you what my experience was in it, right?
Right.
But like, now, it was just complete therapy. And literally, I feel like it was the final hoorah with the old version of who I was before. And so it's like, that version of me no longer exists. You see what I'm saying? If you knew me then, You knew me 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like, you don't know me anymore. You don't know the current version of who I am. So it did take courage, but really one of the hardest things I've ever done, but the most liberating thing at the same time.
Yeah. And I say somebody commented that your honesty is what they love about the book.
Who is that?
And I,
Alexis. and I want to be like, where if you know me and you read this book, this is how I talk. I wrote the book too in a way where it reads as if you're having a conversation with me, right? If you know me, you know I'm very I'm I'm use profanity a lot. Very raw. A lot of people think I'm funny. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I just want to be myself and let you know this is what it is. And then, on social media, we see the upside of everybody's life. We see the glitz and the glam, the good only. And I'm like, I want people to know I'm a human. This is what really it is. Because a lot of times we will assume things about people. And a lot of people assume that my life has been something that is not.
yeah.
Like I want people to really know like what my experience has been.
And especially like now, like you said, with social media kind of really changing the way that we see life. We've been in social media for so long, in this social media led world for so long, that it really changed the way that we view day-to-day life, right? And so the honesty that comes from the book is really refreshing to the reader, because like you said, you're not laying everything out there, but you're just speaking about things that you've gone through. And we've all gone through things, but social media tells us to cut that part off,
Right.
and only show the best view of your breakfast. The other half of the eggs might be burnt to shit, but just take a picture of this part, right?
Right.
And that's a part that I really appreciate in the book, is that you're speaking very candid. You're speaking, from a place of honesty, from a place of truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I appreciated it. I know somebody else commented that that's something that they appreciate as well.
And that's my goal. My goal is to really inspire people to get on the journey, like get on your own journey of unbecoming, get on your own journey of self-awareness and healing, and really getting a better understanding, really understanding of who you are. Because a lot of us have, just like me, prior to me becoming like spiritually aware and really, I said the first part of my book is just it's my story leading up to the spiritual awareness journey. That is the real journey. That is where the real story starts. Because it came a time for me where I was very unhappy. I had all of the outside stuff. I had all the material possessions. You know what I'm saying? I had all the bags, the designer bags, shoes, traveling, popping bottles, NVIP. You know what I'm saying? I had all that, the outer shit. But my inner world was complete chaos. You know what I'm saying? I was just totally caught up in materialism, totally unaware of my value, my worth, in a toxic relationship, thinking that it was normal. Like, oh, this is normal. This is what happens in a normal relationship, right? I love my family to death, but not even really realizing, like, man, we got a lot of toxicity and dysfunction that's happening here. And we're just perpetuating this stuff. Like, everybody's blindly repeating the same cycles over and over again. So it got to a point in my life where I started questioning everything. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, who am I? You see,
Right.
I'm 9 years old and I'm like, I don't know who I am. I got a closet full of designer bags and clothes and shoes. You know what I'm saying? I got the college degree. I'm married, like, but I'm not happy. I'm unfulfilled because I didn't know who I was on a soul level. You see what I'm saying? I knew who society had told me I was. And so I was just seeking. I'm like, I got to figure out what's going on here. And so that's what the journey of unbecoming is really all about. It's you, for one, becoming self-aware and realizing that, for one, we've been taught a lot of things that are not true. We've been indoctrinated into a lot of things that are not true, that don't serve us and our higher purpose. We normalize a lot of shit that's not normal, especially in the Black community. We normalize so much trauma and don't even recognize so many things as trauma because it's so normal in our community, right? And that's why I needed to share the backstory, because it's like, You know, I come from a family where mass incarceration is like the norm. But
Mm-hmm.
but in my family, that's normal. On literally my whole life, I spent my whole childhood going to visit people in prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Having coming from homes where I came from a home too, where a lot of responsibility was placed on us as children at a very young age. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of things that we go through, and I knew that people would be able to see themselves in my story if I would just share it in a real, true, authentic way.
And it's funny when you talk about like trauma. I know I spoke to another author that wrote Black Mental Health Matters,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember speaking to him, and I said he speaks a lot about post traumatic stress syndrome, and about how trauma is normalized in the Black community.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, I was like, I don't think I really have trauma. And he's like, we've been speaking for 10 minutes and you've given me 5 traumatic events in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't think it's trauma because your mom is traumatized, your
Yep.
dad.
Yep.
At first I'm like, what? Who I'm like, I get defensive, but he's like, no, you got to understand.
Yep.
If everything around you is drenched in trauma, it's normal to you because you have to normalize it for you to move on from on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
If every day you walk outside and you get in a fight, fighting is now normal to you. The rest of the world, that's not normal. But to you,
Absolutely.
that's how your life is. You know what I mean? And like you said, it's a lot of unbecoming and unlearning
Mm-hmm.
that we have to go through. So we understand. First, we got to understand this is not normal.
Exactly.
We got to say, okay, this is not okay, right?
That was what I had to realize within my own family, and it took me taking a step back, which I talk about this in my book, like going back to that journey of the butterfly. You see what I'm saying? The caterpillar is synonymous with who we are when we're in survival mode. When we are unaware, we don't know who we really are. We are normalizing a bunch of stuff that's not normal. We're just trying to survive. But then there comes a time where the caterpillar is called to be more, to become what it's actually meant to be. And so it has to go into a phase of isolation and darkness. And so that was what my spiritual awakening journey was. That was me isolating myself, taking a step back. I had to get outside of the picture, outside of the frame, because when you're in the picture, everything is normal. Like you said, fighting is normal, killing, death. We think all this shit is normal, but it's not. In my family, mass incarceration was the norm. Poverty was normal. Toxic parents was normal. You see, until when I took a step back and I'm starting to ask questions and analyze stuff, it's like, wow, we all have trauma because trauma is passed on in our DNA. We literally have trauma just from being Black in America. Everybody has trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma isn't always, oh, I got molested as a child, or, I got abandoned as a child. That's extreme trauma. Trauma can be something as getting whoopings is traumatizing. That's not normal. That's not normal behavior, but that's normalized in our community. But when we question that and get to the root of where did whoopings come from, that's post-traumatic stress syndrome from slavery, right? But that's
Yep.
normal in our community. Having to grow up really fast. Like I said, in my household, we had adult responsibilities as children. You see what I'm saying? That's not
Mm-hmm.
that's traumatizing. That's going to impact who you become later. And that's why in the beginning of my book, and see what we went back and added is more on childhood programming, because what you experience and what you're exposed to between the ages of 0 and 7 literally shapes who you become later in life. How you handle situations, what you perceive to be good, bad, normal, impacts your thought making process your entire life unless you become intentional about unlearning, undoing, and unbecoming that stuff, right? So I had to think about my childhood. What was I exposed to between the ages of 0 and 7? Well, at 2 years old, my father went to prison right in front of me, literally surrounded, swarmed by police right in front of me at 2.
Yeah.
My whole life, I thought I was good. I thought I wasn't even impacted by my father going to prison until I started seeking and I started getting outside help and working with my mentor who wrote the foreword for my book, Dr. Be Serious. And it's like we just had a conversation recently. He said, man, when I first met you, your shit was raggedy. God, you was you were a totally different person. And I thought I was normal. I thought I was good. Like, man, I'm not impacted. My dad went to prison when I was 2. I'm good. Like, but my father went to prison in front of me at 2, right? Imagine that. So you got to now go back to your inner child. Imagine being 2 years old. You got a close bond with your parent. They're just immediately taken away. That's going to impact you for forever. You see what I'm saying? That's abandonment. That's heartbreak. It's so many things tied into that, right? And then for me, it went from that to having a step parent who was terrible. This is my childhood. This is me between 0 and 7. So although I was still able to function, I was still able to graduate, go to college, do all that stuff. I'm still traumatized though. This is going to impact how I move in life. This is going to impact my relationships with men. This is going to have an emotional impact on me, right? So now I'm navigating through the world as a hurt, traumatized person. I'm making decisions from that aspect. But I think everything is normal. So when we have unresolved childhood trauma, this is how we end up in toxic relationships, how we end up seeking validation outside of ourselves, how we end up just in low vibrational experiences, right? Working jobs we hate, people pleasing, being so concerned with what other people think about us. So we all have trauma. All of us have trauma.
Definitely.
All of us. And we got big traumas, we got little traumas, and everything in between. And so this is why this journey is so important, just becoming self-aware and addressing that within yourself. And it's tough. To me, it's the hardest work that you will ever do on earth, is to literally go within yourself and to start to change from within, and also tap into your personal power, because it takes a lot. You're going to be unlearning a lot, realizing a lot of what you thought was real wasn't, realizing a lot of what we were taught. Like, literally, y'all, 99% of what we learn in school is lies, straight up lies. We don't know our true history. We don't know our true lineage. You know what I'm saying? We are indoctrinated into so many belief systems that are just simply not true. And we're making decisions in life based on that programming. And so this journey is just all about you really becoming self-aware, understanding your power, and then from there, just really manifesting what you truly desire, but based off of you being a healthy, healed, whole you, not the traumatized version of you that's unaware. So that's why the butterfly. When we're lost, unaware, we're in caterpillar mode. We're in survival mode. And that's how most of us spend our whole lives. Most people spend their entire lives in survival mode and don't even know they're in survival mode. High stress, high anxiety, worried, you know what I'm saying? Unhealthy, unhappy, unfulfilled, just literally surviving and going through the motions.
Yeah, it's like surviving day to day. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, how long did it, when you decided, after you met your book mentor, and you decided, okay, this is what I'm doing. How long did it take you to go from idea to turn in finished product?
It was 6 months. From the day we started to book in hand, it was 6 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Was there any part that took the longest?
Honestly, just starting. I feel like you have people who are really writers. Like, this is their thing. It's in their DNA. Like, they can write a book in a weekend, right? Right. I am not a writer by nature. So it was very hard for me to just, like, what's my flow? Like, you know what I'm saying? So starting was the hardest part for me. It took me I kept starting over probably like 50 times. I tried to, I'm going to type the book out. I'm going to talk the book out. What I had to do literally was go get notebooks and write. I just had to literally let me just do a brain dump. And so it was just finding my flow and figuring out okay, because I share my story, but I ain't sharing every single, because the book would have been never ending, right? So I had to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this flow in a way to where it all comes together and makes sense? So that was hard. And then ending it, knowing okay, this is where we end this information at. Because like you said, the way I end the book, that I'm still on this journey myself. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm a fully self-aware person who understands their power, this is what I'm going to be manifesting. And that's why when we came back and revised it, it's like, since writing the first edition, this is what happened after. And everything I said that this is what I'm manifesting. You know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff has come to fruition for the most part.
And it's funny we talk about like the hard part is ending the book. I remember I saw an interview they had with a painter. I can't remember his name. He was creative. He was on The Shop with LeBron, and he
Mm-hmm.
said that he said he envies LeBron James because in a game there's a definite beginning and definite end, right?
Right.
There's this amount of time, and at the end of the buzzer, whoever's winning wins, whoever's losing loses. And he said as a creative, there's nobody telling you that. There's nobody that says you're done. Put the book down, put the paint down, you're done. And he said
Right.
you have to decide when you're done. And he said a lot of times that's a freeing emotion because you can do what you want to do, but at the same time it's kind of entrapment because you have to tell yourself when you're finished and
Right.
you have to really, really be done. You know what I mean?
I
So how did you decide when to finish?
feeling for me. It was a feeling, and now it was like, okay, it was more like of an energetic feeling where I just knew like, okay, this is and it was also very emotional. Like I think that was the hardest part too about writing a book in general. It's a very emotional process for me.
Okay. Now, when you went back to revise it, what originally made you decide to go back? Did you always knew you were going to revise the book, or kind of what made you decide that you were going to do that?
Well, I worked with a coach to just get the book out. Right. I feel like he helped me most with coming up with my flow as a writer, and he did a great job at editing the book too and keeping it the way he coached me on writing it. We really didn't have to make that many edits in terms of the book is exactly how I put it out. Like he didn't really change my words, of course, grammar and all that type of stuff. But um, I went back and revised it. I actually decided to work with a coach who specialized in the marketing side of books, right? And really using your book to develop yourself more so whatever your lane is in, like, turning your book into like, okay, speaking and things like that. And so when I worked with her, I realized like before I was in the mindset of this is just being a memoir, like I'm just putting my story out, and I definitely want to use my story as a way to inspire other people to tap into their own selves and get on this journey of awareness, right? And really using it for that. But then working with her, it's like it made me want to go back and add even more value. So what I did, I went back in and added resource guides. I have a whole site now that people who buy the book can go to and download. I have several free resources now, and I also use feedback from people because throughout the book I share other books and things that I use to help me. So some people were like, "Oh, can I have a whole bibliography of all the books you read?" So I just kind of took a mental note of all that stuff and then went back in like, okay, now I can create a whole resource guide where you can go and download this for free and get the whole bibliography of books I read. Because in the book I talk about how my mentor, when we first met, that was the prerequisite. He gave me a whole don't call me, read all these books and call me when you're done. If you don't
I
really,
remember that.
don't call me if you're not going to read the book. So
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh, what were those books?" And so that, and I share in the book, changing my lifestyle, changing my diet, what I was putting in my body. That was the catalyst to me becoming spiritual and self-aware. That was the thing. The biggest thing that started the transformation of my whole life was me changing what I was putting in my body. So people were like, "Oh my God, I want to get into eating clean." Like, so I was like, "Okay, let me add a resource guide for that." So we just went back in and added actual resources that people can use, and added in just more context so that people can, as they're reading the book, can also have self-reflection. You see, so like at the end of chapters now of sections of the book, it's asking you, hey, go ahead and reflect on your childhood. What are some things that you can think about that stand out in your childhood? Things that stand out in your childhood that definitely are impacting your decision making process now, where that wasn't in the first version, right? So I did a preface as
Right.
well, added a preface where I talk more about programming, because this is the thing I think a lot of people don't realize, and why people go through life feeling like I'm normal, I'm okay, but we got to think about a lot of the beliefs and ideologies we were indoctrinated into, right? So when I go back and think about my childhood, it's like we, for the most part, come from parents who were not aware. They did what their parents did. You could trace it all the way back to slavery. And we're still caught in a lot of these ideologies and paradigms that are not serving us, but we're just doing it because this is all I know. Just something like eating habits. You see what I'm saying? Most people are going to eat the way their parents ate. Their parents are eating the way their parents ate. This is the biggest issue in our community. This is what kills us more than anything, is what we put in our bodies, right? So I had to realize, like, okay, it's so many different things that we've been programmed to believe that are just simply not true, and they hinder us in life, right? Keep us in like this mental prison. So I wanted to just go back and add context to that. And then also, a lot of people were like, what's next? So we also added a journal, a manifestation journal, because that's the upside of everything, is sharing the story, but then giving you the resources so that you can get on your own journey, and then also helping you decide, you know, what do you desire to manifest in this time you have on this earth? Because we can have anything we desire. There's no shortage. There's no lack. There's no such thing as, oh, you can't have it all, because we can. We just don't know that, right? And we're seeking outside of ourselves to figure everything out. We're going to this person, that person. It's like you got all the answers. You got all the magic you will ever need. It's already in you, innately. You know, we just have to remember that and tap into that. So I just wanted to add more context and just more support for people. And just think about this now as not just like a memoir, me sharing my story, but actually being a guide. A guide.
Okay, so it's kind of transforming from a memoir to more of a guide, a complete guide is the revised version.
Right. So of course it's a memoir, because I found too in my journey, just a lot of the books I read, especially spiritual based books, there's no backstory to it. People tell you, oh, you know, you can manifest, you can do this, you can tap into your power, but there's no backstory or context to that. And I also didn't see a lot of books by Black people, to be honest. Like, none of the spiritual books I really read on my journey were written by Black people. And what I know now and understand about trauma, about, we're different. We're cut from different cloths. You see what I'm saying? Black people have been on this whole entire planet for billions of years. Our DNA goes back way further. Our subconscious goes back way further. We have different levels of trauma, right? And so I'm like, I want to give people context. I'm not going to just come and be like, oh, well, this is how I manifested this, and all you got to do is positive and do this. I'm like, no, I'm telling you what I did. I'm giving you what I experienced and what I had to do to intentionally change, to intentionally say, I do not want this. I have to become a totally different version of myself, or literally I have to unbecome the old version of myself so I can be who I'm meant to be in the first place, right?
Yeah.
That's
and like,
that's the difference in the two.
And like you said, you know, a lot of the kind of self-help spiritual books don't give a backstory.
Right.
And for people like myself, right, and it might be a flaw or kind of a learning inhibitance for me, or whatever the case may be. Like, I need to know where somebody comes from in order for me to really be able to connect with them, or for me to be able to really take much advice from them, right?
Right.
I need to know that you have come from a certain place that is similar to where I've come from, for me to really be able to fully trust what you're telling me, right? And the fact that you, like you said, you broke everything down from where you were coming from. You talked about when things get difficult, when things get ugly, and then to try to manifest a better life, right? And another thing that I really appreciate is that you don't present it as this linear.
Right.
I think a lot of times, like in movies, we get this ugly, false sense of reality where you just look up one day, it's raining, you start smiling, now the sun's out, you never make another mistake in your life. Your life is beautiful from there. And you don't you honestly say that's not how it works, right?
No, the inner work, it gets ugly, and even in the whole world of spirituality, you know, a lot of this stuff is cookie cutter to me. It makes people think, oh, everything is Zen vibes and love and light, and you can just burn some sage and everything is kumbaya. Make a vision board and oh my God, The Secret. It's like, no.
Right.
When you start to become spiritually aware, when you start tapping into yourself and getting on this journey, right? Things are going to get very ugly. You are going to fall apart, but that's the whole purpose, right? And this is why I use the analogy of the butterfly, because when that caterpillar goes into that chrysalis, it get ugly in there. That's for one, you in triple black darkness, solo dolo. And that's why the beginning of the book, my mentor breaks it down so beautifully. He wrote the foreword and he talks about how the caterpillar literally turns into, and I talk about the journey as well. The caterpillar literally turns into like a liquid goop, right? Mm-hmm. And then these cells start to clump together and form a whole new version, right? So that's painful. That's a dramatic change. It's a metamorphosis, right? And so it's not going to be pretty. And this is why so many people run from this. Like when you're constantly seeking outside of yourself, you're running from yourself. You don't want to have to do that shadow. You don't want to have to face those demons. And that's where a lot of us are in our lives. So we find false happiness in things. We self-medicate. Why people got to drink. They got to do X, Y, Z. Why people stay in toxic relationships. It's like we are literally essentially running from ourselves. And a lot of people are scared to do this work. Scared
right.
of the truth and root of who they are or why you're wired a certain way. Why do I keep attracting this kind of stuff into my life? Like people will go a whole lifetime. It's like, I keep attracting these terrible relationships and never think the problem is me. Where's my energy at? You see what I'm saying? I had to realize that about myself several times. Like, what's going on with me to where I keep experiencing this? And that's why I say you got to go inside of yourself. And that is literally somewhere we are never in life. Is there a time where you are taught to seek within, to be introspective, to learn how to count on yourself, your inner guidance that knows everything? Because we have an inner guidance. We have intuition that's always leading us in the right direction. But because we're so disconnected from who we truly are, it's very hard for most people to trust their own inner guidance. They can't even trust their own voice. Most people don't even hear their own voice. They hear the voices of everybody else. Well, this is what my parents think. This is what my pastor thinks. This is what this person thinks. What does your inner being think? You know what I'm saying? You're the only person that can change your life. Nobody else can really give you advice about your life. You have to go within yourself to get that. And so that's what the book I'm sharing with you, how I was able to figure this out and implement this and literally transform my life. Like I went from being very much caught up in this world, materialism, watching reality TV, you know what I'm saying? Having hot girl summers, right? Thinking all this stuff was normal. And then it just got to a point in my life where I was so unfulfilled. It was like, okay, it don't matter how many bags I have, how many vacations I take, something's missing, right? Right. And nothing outside of me was going to fill that gap in. So I had to start doing the inner work. And the inner work gets ugly because it forces you to take accountability for your life, for everything in your life. It's like we don't traumatize ourselves, but as adults, we are responsible for our own healing and for us becoming aware and intentional about changing things. Because if not, we repeat the same cycles. A lot of us, we're traumatizing our children and don't know it. We think we're doing a great job. Well, this is what my parents did. We're not even questioning anything. We're just following the same flow. And I had to realize that too. That was probably one of the hardest chapters as well, the chapter about my son and me realizing that I had my son at 17. I was a teenager raising a child. That is traumatic within itself. So much trauma is going to stem from that. You're unaware, you're lost, and you're raising another human based off of what you know, and you don't know anything, right? So my son was traumatized in so many ways that I didn't realize. And so I had to do damage control. I had to, for one, be willing to take accountability. A lot of parents cannot take accountability for the trauma that they are placing on their children. A lot of parents won't even allow their children to voice to them how they really feel about them. I gave my that space. I want to know how you feel based on your experience. And when I had that conversation with him, I was baffled. You see what I'm saying? Baffled by what his perspective was, but I had to respect that and just take accountability for it. Mm-hmm. And we see the youth a lot of times. So many adults, oh, this generation, this and that. They're not teaching themselves. So many women, oh, these men, that. These men not raising themselves. So as adults, we have to be willing to be accountable and accept the role that we have played in programming and traumatizing our own children. And so I had to get right with myself in that and start doing damage control. And that was a part of my healing, a part of the process. And me and my son are still on that journey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And now, I know one part of the journey of kind of unbecoming that I think a lot of people deal with. I know I've dealt with it before. I'll probably deal with it again. Is the sense of like imposter syndrome, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where you start to become a different person, and then you start to say, "Well, who am I to be a different person?" Or what makes me different? What makes me able to be different? What's one thing that you had to when you faced that, right? How did you work your way through it, or if you're still working your way through it, what are some ways that you've been able to work your way through it?
You have to just be very much rooted in who you are and just confident in the journey that you're on. My biggest thing used to be what other people would think. Because as you start to really change and evolve, you're naturally going to lose interest in a lot of people, places, and things that you used to vibe with. Because
Right,
we are vibrational, energetic beings. So as you evolve and grow, you start to raise your frequency. And so you're not going to be attracted to the same stuff. You might not be able to listen to the same music no more. Go to the same spots you used to hang out at. Your friend group, you may realize like this is not even really a healthy friend group. The relationship you're in, you may realize, wow, this is a terrible relationship. This isn't even the person I need to be with for me to continue my ascension and elevation, right? So that was my biggest thing. Like, man, what are other people going to think? But then too, that imposter syndrome, it's almost like, yeah, like, how dare I change and evolve into something different?
yep,
But I had to just constantly remind myself, like, we're not supposed to stay the same. We're not put here to stay the same. Nothing in nature stays the same. Nature is changing every second, right? But as humans, we have somehow fallen into this belief that we're supposed to stay the same, and that you're demonized when you change. Like, oh, this person done switched up and changed. Just like we are supposed to change. That is the nature of our journey. So I had to just it's a constant going back to yourself and being confident in your journey and just following your bliss, following your intuition, and knowing I'm on the right path no matter what it looks like to other people. And so I just had to get very, very, very rooted and confident within myself and giving myself grace. Like, I have a right to change, and I'm not going to allow anyone to try to keep me in a box. You see what I'm saying? I posted a post a week ago, and it was a post of Lauryn Hill, and she was talking about, she came out on stage and just, this is an old video clip, but I love the way she explained it. And she was like, y'all are just meeting me for the first time. If you knew
mm-hmm.
before, you don't know me now. She said, I had to reintroduce myself to everybody I know, my own mother and father. I had to reintroduce myself because you don't know this version of me. And so
Right,
I had to realize, like, I'm changing for the better. You see what I'm saying? Like, everything I'm doing is pure. My intentions are good. It's from the heart. This is change that's helping me, and it's also going to help other people. So you have to just talk yourself out of all those limiting beliefs. Like, we're human. You know what I'm saying? We're actually programmed to discredit ourselves and bash ourselves and judge ourselves really harshly. So I had to just keep coming back to, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? And being okay with if nobody else understood the journey. That's the other thing too. A lot of people around you will not understand it. Most people have no desire to really change. Only 10% of caterpillars become butterflies. I feel it's the same way for humans. It's a small percentage of people who are truly willing to do the inner work necessary to transform and really go through this metamorphosis of making that real transition from survival mode to thriving. And this has nothing to do with money. This has nothing to do with anything outside of yourself. This is your spirit. This is your soul. This is you being free within yourself and really understanding your power and who you are, and that you have the ability to be, do, and have anything you put your mind to. So a lot of people don't even believe this is possible. A lot of people are so stuck in their own mental prison that they can't change. And so
right.
as you're evolving and growing and raising your frequency, this will hold a mirror to the shadow parts of people that they don't want to change, and it will make them feel away. Some people will be very intimidated by it. Feel like, how dare you want to change? And well, some people will actually try to keep you small. I know for me in my experience, which is why I had to leave the relationship I was in. I realized I was with someone who had no interest in growing and changing, and they did not want me to grow and change, and they wanted to hinder me. And a lot of us make that mistake. We will stay in a relationship where we have to be small. We can't be who we really are, but we will stay there because that's all we know. We think this is normal. And so for me, I was in that space for 10 years with somebody where I thought what I was going through was normal. But the moment I started to wake up within myself, I realized immediately, this is not the relationship I'm supposed to be in. I will never be able to be who I'm supposed to be. I'm going to have to leave this situation. You see? So it's definitely hard, and it's a journey that's a solo journey. This isn't a group thing. Doing your inner work, becoming self-aware. This is work that nobody else can really do for you or really with you, because we're all different. Everybody's experience is different. We all have different levels of trauma. We all have different belief systems that we've been indoctrinated into in different ways. All of our childhood programming, we have similarities, but it's all different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And as Black people, our programming is tenfold, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's programming times 10, because we've been told all the time to look to somebody that does not look like us
Bingo.
to see how we see ourselves, right? I remember when I was in school and I just said a simple thing like, I don't like this book. And I'll never forget, my teacher was like, how do you know? And I just sat there like, because I know what I like. How can you tell me I do like it? And he honestly felt like he could tell me what I should like. You know what I mean? And I questioned myself for a second, like, well, maybe he's right. Maybe he's like, just read it again. That's the problem. You probably read it too fast. I'm like, I didn't read not one page of this book in front of you for you to tell me that I read it too fast. How would you know that?
Right.
And for a second, I was like, well, maybe he's right. I did kind of read it fast. And, I always make fun of Mice and Men, but that was the book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, you don't know what you like yet, so just read it again because it's a classic. And I was like, well, okay, well, I don't like books then, because if this is a classic and this book stinks to me, then I must not like books.
Right.
But it's because I'm told somebody else knows me more than I know myself. Somebody who doesn't look like me tell me what I like. And I'll never forget that shifted my thinking for a while. I was like, he's right. He must be right. He's older than me. He's a teacher, which means he's smart. He's my teacher, so I got to respect him. So I'll go with what he says. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We're so brainwashed and upside down and inside out with that. The whole school system is, we're taught things. All of our history is a lie. Literally, I feel like, and it's sad, but so many Black people, when they think about the divine, when they think about who God is, they don't even think of someone who looks like them. So it's like you're losing by default, because you literally believe someone outside of you, for one, that doesn't even look like you, is superior to you.
Yep.
It happens in health and wellness all the time. You know what I'm saying? You think that this person has authority over your life because they're white and they're in a white coat, that they know everything.
Yep.
So we are at such a disadvantage when it comes to our indoctrination, and that's why I say we've been programmed to believe so many things that literally go against our very nature. All of our history is a straight up lie. They got us believing stuff that is not true, got us making decisions that are still impacting us right now that are not true. Even the notion of like children, how you were able to come to observation young. Our children are wiser than us in a lot of ways, because children are the closest. A child just born is the closest connection to the divine, right? They haven't been indoctrinated yet. Their pineal gland has not been calcified yet. Their third eye is still open. A lot of our children know more than us on a spiritual level, but then slowly but surely, you get indoctrinated. Oh, you're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to have an opinion. Why? Because I'm an adult and you're a child. You got to listen to what I'm telling you, because I know that you don't know what you like yet. It's kind of like, I know exactly what I like.
Right.
Like how they say children always tell the truth. You see what I'm saying? It's like So it's so many things, but the biggest thing is being taught to believe that you need something outside of yourself. People are seeking answers, looking for someone outside of themselves to save them, to turn things around. When it's like, when you really get to this level of awareness, you understand that you are the God that you're seeking. Literally, it's in you.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah.
outside of you. It is you. But we're taught to believe in something that's it's literally one of our biggest hangups. And it's indoctrination from the foods we eat. A lot of these holidays that are celebrated mainstream, y'all don't even know the root of these holidays, and you just celebrating it because, oh, this is normal. My parents did it. My grandparents. This is a tradition. You haven't even questioned where the tradition stemmed from.
Mm-hmm.
One of our biggest problems is food. Soul food. Do we even know where this originated from? Why are we still eating like this? Who created this? You see what I'm saying? The curriculum we learn in school, who created this? Why are we learning this? We don't question anything. And so that keeps us with a very limited mind. That keeps us not questioning things. People don't even realize from the time you go to school, you are literally being programmed to be a robotic worker. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Giving your energy to this matrix, and that is it. And we're going to keep you bogged down with unimportant information. We're going to keep you working just enough to where you're not going to burn out, but you're going to be too tired to think too much.
Yeah. And we'll change the definition of burned out. So you really are. You just don't think you are. You know, I remember I was talking to somebody recently about how perfect attendance in school is just to make you not miss days of work.
Absolutely.
That's all it is.
Absolutely.
It's just to get you to go to work sick.
Yep.
So you don't take advantage of PTO and stuff like that. I remember,
Absolutely.
perfect attendance was a big deal to my grandmother, right? It was so important. Like, you could be throwing up and she'd say, go to school, throw up in front of them, let them send you home. She'll take us to school and go and sit in the parking lot. She's like, but you were there, so you can get your perfect attendance. Right. And I remember thinking, like, why is this important? That would be the only award that we would get. And it's like, why is this? That just means we came. That didn't mean we learned anything. That didn't mean we behaved. We just came. That's it. And then it started to make sense when, people started telling me, why don't you take days off? I'm like, well, I don't know. I just come to work. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense. I got all those pat on the backs just for coming in school. So now I have a problem if I'm sick, if I am burned out, or if my family needs my attention. I'm gonna go to work. My kid needs my attention, but I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna send him to school, even though he shouldn't. And it took a lot for me to just start to unlearn that and to unlearn that training. Raise your hand and go to the bathroom. Yep. It's insane to think that somebody can tell you don't have to go to the bathroom.
This is literally
like hey, I gotta go use the bathroom. No, you don't. It's like, what? What do you mean?
You're not afraid to use your mind. Think about that. We don't even let children have opinions because we feel like we're inferior to them and superior to them because they're smaller. You don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to tell me what you like to eat, what you like to drink. You don't get to tell me anything. That's traumatizing your children, literally. We punish, we whoop. You didn't get a certain, like, school is literally the biggest setup. You see what I'm saying? We punish children. You didn't get straight A's, you're on punishment. When we don't even question who designed this whole system, who came up with this curriculum. But I'm going to tell you guys, when you start going down these rabbit holes, you start to realize none of this was designed in our favor at all, especially Black people. The school to prison pipeline is real. That's another thing I had to take accountability for and really allow my son to express to me. His experience in school was hell. My son was one of those children my son was very self-aware at a young age. He understood who he was at a young age. I took my son to Egypt for his 8th birthday. He saw the Great Pyramids of Giza. He saw the Great Sphinx. You see what I'm saying? He always understood at a young age, like, I am a God. I don't know how he had this level of awareness. My son always questioned everything. He always got in trouble in school for asking questions because he's going to challenge what the teachers are saying. So a lot of these Black young men have white teachers that are intimidated by that. They turn these students into predators at a young age. You see, my son stayed in trouble. He was always the kid sitting by himself. This is traumatic to children. They're being demonized and punished for having an opinion and for questioning the narrative, because that's all school is, a program. They don't want you questioning outside of that. So when certain topics will be talked about in school, my son is like, well, what about this? And he bringing facts too. That's not how it happened. This is how it happened. This is what I, his teachers hated that. They didn't know what to do with it. And he was really smart too. So he gonna finish his work first, and now they got a problem with it. My son was expelled in 8th grade for something that he should have never been expelled for. They just probably knew, yep, we finna write this one off, he'll be in prison, right? This is what happens literally with black male students a lot of times. By the 2nd grade, they already put in a category. They're already written off. This one here gonna be in prison. And so it's not, we don't understand. I used to literally, my son used to get on punishment. He used to get whoopings for getting in trouble at school. And I didn't really understand this. I was a young parent. I didn't understand that my son was literally being demonized in school for having an opinion, for questioning the narrative, for not just going along with it like a robot, you know? And this is what happened. So it's training. It's literally, Napoleon Hill said in his book, Outwitting the Devil, that's one of the worst places for your children. He say church and school, two of the places where we receive the biggest amount of programming and indoctrination into belief systems that literally hinder us overall. So, you know, it's a lot. This journey is not for the faint of heart, because you're going to just realize so many things are just not what you thought they were. But this is what our journey is about, remembering who we are. And once you become aware and you really understand your power and that it doesn't come from outside of you, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. You're no longer either a victim to this system. You're no longer easy prey. You see what I'm saying? You get to start this. You start to see through all these illusions of this society, and there's so many of them. We got so many smoke and mirror screens in front of us, and
this is what happens.
Here, this is the road let's travel, right? This is you. This ain't normal. This is for people who want to go beyond what's normal. People who are questioning. You know what I'm saying? They're feeling something on a soul level. I don't know. Something just ain't right about stuff. Right.
Something
you know?
Feel right.
So this is what that journey is about, right?
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot, like you said, just something just not feeling right. You know what I mean? From the whole indoctrination of it. You know, like I remember one thing that I'm against now is the separation of what they call like talented and gifted, right? In school. I remember they threw me in the talented and gifted. I hated every second of it. Because I was the only black kid there. I was surrounded by white kids. And they weren't any smarter than any of my black friends at all, right? But they were praised to be geniuses. And I remember they called me in the office and told me to stop hanging out with the people I hung out with. They're like, no, Tyree, now that you're in this talented and gifted program, you don't really need to hang out with the same kids. I was like, why not? They're like, well, they're not in the program. I'm like, but I don't care. They who I grew up with. They my friends. Like, well, you just need to hang out with the people in the program. And it's really just a complete separation of people, right? They find this black kid that they have deemed intelligent, even though I got in trouble like your son. Like I would ask a million questions. I think they just took me out of the class because I'm asking so many questions. Right. And they're like, all right, let's throw him over here. So now he can feel like he's not the smartest person. Right. When tell him all these other kids are smart or smarter. So he'll stop asking all these smart ass questions. Right. Yep. He thinks he's a smart ass. And the best thing my mom did was when I got in trouble for questioning Christopher Columbus, I'm like, okay, that's not how that worked. Because I remember my teacher was like, Columbus discovered America, and there were people there when he got there. I'm like, well, how does that make sense? Right. Like, something doesn't feel right. If I come somewhere and people are already there, I can't discover there because people are there already. Yep. That's common sense to me. And the teacher's like, get out. Like once I just said, hey, how do you discover something that other people have already living in? Get out. It wasn't even a, let's talk about that. It wasn't a, well, Tyree, that's a good question. It was get out. And then I went home and I had like after school suspension. So I couldn't come back unless my mom came and talked to the teacher. So I'm sad.
Tyree? My son
Yes.
is Tariq with a Q, Tariq. And
Yeah.
my son, I remember when they learned about 9/11, and he just gave what his perspective was. Oh, they called home. He was so disrespectful. And he talked about, what his beliefs on it was, that the facts don't match up with the story that they put behind this. That I don't feel like this is how it really happened. It was just ongoing. My son stayed in trouble, stayed in suspension, ISS. I might even took him out of school at one point and let him do homeschool. But me now, I'm totally against school. If I was to have a child again, they would never step foot into any type of institution. No regular school. Like, I would have to teach my kid. Like, I would have to teach them because it's just like. My opinions on school now is just totally different. It's totally different, especially
Yeah.
for brown boys and girls. And I'm gonna put heavy emphasis on boys because it's a lot that goes on. So my son just shared with me what his journey was, and I realized how traumatizing that was for him to just always be demonized. And you see in school too, we start to get indoctrinated into the divide and conquer, like you said. Oh, let's split them up. Let's put these kids over here, these kids over here. When you start to take a step back and look at our society, so many things are set up on this division thing. Religions cause division. Politics cause division. Skin color causes division. It's so many different things where we're taught this mentality, and so it keeps us from ever realizing, okay, there's somebody behind the scenes that's creating this, right? We're just so busy. Oh, you believe in this? That's wrong. You believe in that? That's wrong. I'm this, you're that. We're so caught up in the titles and the this and that. And so on the journey, that's what you gains, right? Somebody just said gains. It's so many things that teaches us division, right? And so on this journey, you start to become spiritually aware and start, like me, getting into like the teachings of the law of one. It's like, man, we're all connected, and we're taught to be these people that have all of this hate and animosity against each other because we're different, and we move different and believe in different. And so I started getting to like, who's creating this? You see what I'm saying? Somebody's creating these systems for division, but it starts at a young age, and it's no reason why they want us in our young years. From the years where you're programmed are 0 to 7. So you think about that. Elementary school, this is where you are literally being downloaded with all the stuff that's going to shape who you become later in life. You see what I'm saying? We pick up so much shit. We start to you think about who you are before you go to school. You might have a very positive self-image. You go to school, oh my God, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. It's instant comparison mode. Oh, honor roll, this and that. Everybody is not smart in the book smart way. You see what I'm saying? But if you can't go to school and get an A or a B, something's wrong with you.
All right.
Yep. I just feel like it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's the same thing with college. College is the same way. College literally indoctrinates you even further into becoming a robotic worker. I remember that hit me. I wasn't even on this journey yet, but my senior year of college, I was like, I got duped. You know what I'm saying? That's what I realized last semester. I'm like, I literally got duped. Got my degree in business and didn't learn anything other than how to go be an employee. I'm like, this was a waste of my time. You know what I'm saying? Not knocking anybody who decides to go, but I gave my son the choice. Listen, it's up to you. Me personally, if I could do it, I would have skipped it, because literally, I'm a business owner. Nothing I learned in college has helped me as a business owner. Not one single thing. Not one. Helped me in life or in business. I still had to go get mentors and learn the real on my own. So I'm like, I could have totally skipped that, right? And it's just we get programmed with so much unimportant information, but we never learn the stuff we really need to know. We don't learn how to go inward. We don't learn about meditation, about introspection. We don't learn about the universal laws that govern this. We don't even learn about money. We never learn about money, financial literacy, how to accumulate wealth, how to transfer wealth. We don't learn nothing how to eat properly. You know what I'm saying? The healing benefits of the sun. Even doctors. And see, doctors don't even question who made up y'all curriculum. You go down these rabbit holes, though. And that's where becoming aware. You know, I spent a lot of time as a holistic nutrition coach. All right, this is why so many people are sick. Look at who made up the curriculum for what doctors learn when they go to medical school. All right, y'all got to look into the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller family. You will understand none of this stuff was created for our benefit. A lot of stuff, you go to the doctor, they're basing what they're telling you off of anatomy that's not even yours. So they tell women, oh, after 35, that's a geriatric pregnancy for who? Not melanated indigenous people. Is not. It never has been. That's based off of anatomy that's not even ours.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Doctors never even learn about nutrition, about herbs, about how to heal the body naturally. They learn how to medicate and operate, and that's it. But we'll listen. Somebody can go figure out, get all the education on natural healing. And I've seen this happen a million times. Start doing things, changing their diet, using herbs, and go let a doctor tell them, oh, you better get on this medication, and they will listen just because that's our programming.
Mm-hmm.
We think, for one, that these colored people are superior. They know better. And it's the complete opposite. And that's what you start realizing when you start to become aware of who you really are, what we really come from. They got all black people thinking that we all came from slavery. We were on this planet for billions of years. Slavery was a blip in our history, and it was a small percentage of us. A lot of us have no ancestors that came from the slave trade. Many of us, our ancestors were here already, like how you said. How did he discover it? And it was people, we were here. You see what I'm saying? A lot of us, I got Cherokee in my family. My great-grandmother, full-blooded Cherokee, she was here. She wasn't in the transatlantic slave trade. She was already here. And that's the truth for so many of us. But in school, that was the thing that didn't sit right with me in school. We really learned that we were doing nothing before slavery. Our history starts with slavery as black people. So in school, we're already at a disadvantage because we literally think that our history started with slavery. It's crazy when you start to really get to the meat of it. It's like we have been bamboozled, turned upside down and inside out, and just straight up lied to. And it's like, we're the creators of just about everything. The math you learn in geometry.
We created all that.
Right. This is our knowledge that has been manipulated and whitewashed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy, y'all. It's crazy. So getting on this journey of just becoming self-aware, of being your authentic self, like it's a difficult journey, but the most liberating, because once you really know who you are and you have that real true power, you can float through here. It's almost like magic. Literally manifest anything you desire, whether it's money, it's great health, it's great relationships, it's all of the above. Whatever you put your mind to, it's like it's already yours, and that the answers are within you. I got it. I'm at my co-working office, and so I think I'm the only person here. But if it's no motion for a while, the lights automatically
turn the lights off. Mm-hmm.
But we just have so much to y'all. We have so much to unlearn and undo and unbecome. We don't need to learn anything else. We don't need to become anything. We need to just remember who we are, and that's what the journey really was all about. Just got to remember who you are. That you already got the magic within you.
Yep. And I know one of the biggest starts for me when you talk about just unlearning a lot of stuff and looking at things from different perspectives. I remember in school, they always taught that slaves couldn't read, right? None of the people that are enslaved, even calling them slaves, people that are enslaved, they said they couldn't read. And then I read the book Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. And she talks about how it's not that we couldn't read. We were literally taken to another location and didn't know their language at first. Then we learned their language. So, of course, you take me and send me to France, I can't read French.
Right.
That doesn't mean I can't read. I can't read another language. I have to figure it out. So then we start to, when you say, hey, people that are enslaved couldn't read, you're attacking their intelligence as a whole. You're saying that these people were not intelligent and were forced to work because they weren't intelligent. No, we were forced to work because we were kidnapped and brutally beaten, and we were taken to another location.
Exactly.
And then it's just unlearning that, okay, their standard of intelligence doesn't work because we understand that we had to teach the enslavers how to read. We had to teach them about herbs, and we had to teach them how to wash themselves to avoid getting sick and dying.
Yep.
So that was one of the kind of times that just turned a light on, like, okay, this doesn't make sense. All of this is what you're giving me doesn't really add up. You know what I mean? I know somebody talked about how, like with
Somebody
gangs.
just put in the comments and fed them the Bible, and see, that's a touchy subject for a lot of people. But when you really become self-aware, you realize that you are the Christ. That Christ is a consciousness that you reach. It's a level of awareness, and that God is in you. It's not outside of you. It's no one in the sky. And that even with religion, see, most people have never questioned anything. They just go along with what they were exposed to. But most people don't even understand the context of the Bible. For one, that where it came from, and they took these ancient teachings from Kemet and other civilizations and manipulated this information. And so this is where most people are hung up at. That religion gets a lot of people. And so for me, I got to a level where what I understand and understand, overstand is it supersedes religion, because religion is man-made. And the biggest flaw in in all these mainstream religions is that they took information and manipulated it, totally removed the divine feminine too, based everything around patriarchy. And
Yep.
this is why we have so much chaos and unbalance on this earth. I was talking about this the other day. I said most people don't even look outside and realize we are literally surrounded by all male trees. There are no fruit-bearing trees anywhere. So you got all this masculine energy, and it's like the divine feminine is, y'all get so deep, but you know that religion is like, so many black people are still hung up there, when it's like, y'all, how can you have the same religion as your oppressors, the same religion they use to keep you oppressed? This makes no sense. And like I said, when most people even think of where I'm at now with it, I understand, overstand that Christ is a consciousness. God is in you, not outside of you. You know what I'm saying? Reverend Ike does a great job at breaking this ideology down. Great job, right? But that's where we're really, really, really hung up at. Most people's idea of God doesn't even look like them, first and foremost, and it's outside of them. And you know, I come from a family that is Muslim, but it's still the same belief system, right? Y'all are still seeking outside of yourselves, and this is still a man-made religion where the divine feminine has totally been removed. Well, that's not true. So we got to get into ancient teachings. You get into ancient Kemet, and where a lot of this stuff that mainstream religion is based on really stemmed from. And we have to also understand why the divine feminine was removed from so much, and how this whole system was created, and why and how it keeps us out of balance and out of alignment with who we really are. So it gets really, really, really deep, y'all. Like I said, it's gonna challenge so much of what you believe in. It's gonna make you uncomfortable. It's gonna stretch you to your limits. You know, it's times I felt like I was going crazy, but it's a part of it. But it's the most liberating when you get to the root of it. And so when you understand, okay, Christ is a consciousness. This isn't some white man with a beard. This is what they made up. This is their history. This is what they made up. And you get your personal feelings out of it. You see what I'm saying? And you just start to do your research, because it's all there, y'all. The moment you go down a rabbit, it's there. It's like, ooh, wow, what the hell? You start realizing, like, wow, we have been bamboozled in so many different ways. But see, knowledge is power. When you have that power and you know who you are, listen, you're unstoppable. And that's really the biggest threat to this whole matrix that they are using to keep everybody in control. They know most people are not willing to do that, to stretch their perception, shift their paradigm, and really learn new information. This is why the TV, the television, it's called television programming. A lot of what's happening in entertainment, y'all, they put the truth in these movies. All these science fiction movies, this is truth. You got to start watching these movies with your third eye open. I did a post on that. Like, you watch The Matrix, but watch it not as a movie, as a documentary. This movie is talking about us. The Truman Show. These are not movies, y'all. This is them giving you the truth in plain sight. This show, The Man Who Fell to Earth, y'all, this show is so powerful. These are not just regular shows. They are giving you the truth, but making it entertainment. But when you become aware, your third eye is wide open. Your pineal gland is decalcified. You can see stuff for what it is. So I didn't have this level of awareness before. But man, I'm telling you, they put so much of our truth. Watch Avatar, y'all. That movie is talking about us. Talking about how all of the indigenous people were colonized. Literally. What's another one? Oh, Lovecraft Country. That's a show that went over so many people. They telling us so much truth about ourselves and our history. I did a video on TikTok. This video went viral where I'm like, listen, Lovecraft Country went over the heads of a lot of people. A lot of people, oh, it's too weird, it's too this. They telling you the truth, y'all. That we are the magic. Magic is real. They took our magic and they use it against us, literally, and cast spells on us and do all these rituals to keep us in a prison in our own minds. So it's just time for us to wake up and tap in, which is why I revised the book and relaunched it, because in 2020, oh yeah, all these iRobot, I Am Legend, y'all. I Am Legend, it's called predictive programming, y'all. I Am Legend literally predicted the whole pandemic down to the correct year and everything, y'all. So none of this stuff that we see happening in society is coincidental. It's all there. We have to just become aware and start looking at stuff for what it is. It's crazy how much truth are in these movies and shows, especially science fiction and fantasy. They love to give us our truth in that form, and it predictively programs the mind. So, yes, I Am Legend. Go back and watch I Am Legend. You're like, what in the hell? How they predict this whole thing down to the exact year? But for people who are spiritually aware, we know that we're in the age of Aquarius, which is this is like when the Great Awakening is happening. And what I'm seeing, y'all, to be honest, it's this younger generation that are tapping in and waking up at a rapid rate. They are seeing straight through the manipulation. They are really decoding this stuff. And I'm so grateful to see it. I see so many people from like the age of like 19 to 26, 27 who is like, oh, they get it. They understand it. They're seeing through this religion. They're seeing through this education. They're seeing through all this divide and conquer stuff. And they're realizing like, okay, we all been duped. They're getting it at a young age. For me, I didn't start becoming aware until I was 29. And it's levels to it. You know, I didn't get it all at once. It's a journey that continues to unfold. And the more aware you become, it takes you on deeper and deeper levels. But it's so much for us to unlearn and unprogram from our minds. Even the fact that we're minorities, y'all, that's bullshit. How? Y'all, you look at Africa on the map. The size of Africa is a lie. Every continent can fit into Africa, and it was still, America can get lost in Africa. Literally, you could drop America in Africa and you would never see it again. So we're just, our thinking and our vision is manipulated on so many different levels. How are we the minorities when we were on this planet for billions of years by ourselves? When you get to the root of every civilization, it all stems from us, right? How are we the minorities? It's so much. The language that we speak, y'all, you get into the etymology of a lot of words that we use. A lot of people don't even know the English language was literally created for us to cast spells on ourselves. I talked about this in a post. Just saying good morning, that's a spell, because the etymology of morning is not good. It's not positive, right? So we say this every day. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Don't even realize what we're doing. We just saying it because that's what we know. A lot of these holidays we celebrate. You got to get to the root of it and get out of the mindset that I just want to have a good time and be with family. I stopped celebrating I don't celebrate no holidays, because you just, when you know better, you have to do better. I'm somebody who, I can't get privy to information and still be like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep doing my thing. It don't work like that. It's a video of Dick Gregory. He talks about how when the universe chooses you to put the sunglasses on, you can't take them off and you can't control who else puts them on. So for me, I got the sunglasses on 24/7 and I'm just seeing straight through stuff. So I can't no longer, I'm gonna just celebrate Thanksgiving because this is about family. Nah, family, we can get together some other day and rock out. But on this day, I refuse to give my energy to this, because this is about, they have turned completely annihilating a whole civilization of people into a holiday that we willingly celebrate with joy. and they turn around and make the most money off our black asses the day after. And it's just like, I can't give my energy to that. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not judging anybody who does, but the more aware you become, the more you start to really take your power back and see through how we have been manipulated to go along with things that are literally based off of our demise. It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy. So the journey of unbecoming is that you got to unlearn and be willing to get uncomfortable, because this journey is not, this is all about getting uncomfortable. But that's where your life begins at. You got to get outside of your comfort zone.
So what's next for you after, like, after the revised, after the revised book? What's next? Are you going to write another book? Is this going to be a series, or what? What are we looking at?
So what's next? For one, I'm definitely pivoting now into doing holistic life coaching and really coaching people when it comes to their mental, physical, spiritual, and financial health. And helping people navigate through this journey of, for one, let's just become aware. Developing healthier eating habits, shifting our mindset, and tapping into our own power, and realizing that you have within you the ability to transform your entire life, right? It doesn't matter what you've been through, where you're at currently. It doesn't matter. You can literally transform your life and be a totally different person in a totally different place. You know what I'm saying? Or a matter of a month, or a few months, or a year, right? Whatever the case may be. So I'm doing a workshop this coming Sunday. This is going to be something I do on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. It's called Master Your Manifesting Power. This is a free workshop. So you guys can click the link in my bio to register for that. That's the first thing. And then I'm definitely going to be writing more books. My next book is going to just really go further into the journey, because I'm somewhere totally different now. This book was based on my spiritual awareness journey, my life's experiences and my spiritual awareness journey up until like 2018, because that was where the thick of my journey happened at. And so I've learned so much more since then. Like now, I'm into other things like psychedelics. You see what I'm saying? Using psychedelics though, and when I say psychedelics, I'm talking about psilocybin, but using these things to heal from trauma, to become more aware, and to see beyond what we think we know, because we don't know anything, y'all. Like I'm telling y'all. So definitely want to write more books and just continue to help people along this journey. So the next will be more so deeper levels of awareness and healing from trauma, for sure. So I definitely plan to write more books, and then also doing retreats. I plan on doing wellness retreats where we are taking people on guided trips, as well as infusing the trips. I miss alternative health, so infusing the trips, the wellness retreats, with things like cannabis and other things that help us in our healing, and these plants that have been used since the beginning of time for higher levels of consciousness. So that's my goal. My goal is to really help as many people as possible become self-aware. If that's it, become self-aware. Understand, understand who you are and the power that you have within you, and just living life from that vantage point. So more books are in the works for sure. I plan on writing my next book next year, like starting the process of writing it and probably releasing at the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024.
Okay. All right. And I know I told you I sent I bought another copy of The Journey of Unbecoming, and I sent it to my little cousin, and she read it. And she really enjoyed it. I said, "Hey, I think I know a book that you'll like." And she's like, "All right, whatever, send it to me." So I sent it to her, and she read it very quickly. That's how I knew she really liked it. Is how quickly my little cousin, I don't know if she's watching. Hey, Kate, I love you.
Thank you for reading. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
She read it really quickly, and that's how I knew that she really enjoyed it. So I appreciate that. Like I said, I appreciate the book. I appreciate the honesty that it comes from, and the real, like, the place of the journey that it comes from. Right? It never underestimates the length of the journey. It never underestimates. It doesn't pacify the journey at all.
Right.
It said, hey, this is going to be ugly. And get ready for it to be ugly. And it was ugly for me, but you can use me to know that you can get through it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You can. You're built to get through it. And so Two, I see in the spiritual world right now, a lot of people use the term like new age spirituality, but it's like nothing is new about spirituality because we're spiritual beings. But what I'm seeing in that world right now are people painting a picture that's not giving people the real truth. You want to be able to utilize the law of attraction and all these things. It's like you got to do a lot of inner work on yourself, and that inner work gets very ugly. It's painful. It's a lot. It's a lot. You're gonna be angry. You're gonna be pissed. It's gonna be a lot. You're gonna have questions for your parents or whoever raised you. It's gonna be a lot of emotions that come up, but it's liberating. It's therapeutic. And when you look back, it's gonna be like, wow. I'm telling you, life is so much better when you are aware and in alignment with who you are authentically. Literally. You're not gonna be triggered by a lot of this stuff that happens in society. You know what I'm saying? You move with a whole different level of confidence and belief in yourself and your abilities. And you start to notice that things come to you easily. You become almost, not even almost, because we're magnets. We just don't know this, right? So you become magnetic for your desires. You know, we're taught in our society to chase. You know, you got to chase your goals. You got to hustle. You got to chase the bag. Get into alignment with who you are authentically and become a magnet for your desires and attract. So that's the journey I really desire to teach people, is how to become a magnet for your desires, how to let go of all this stuff that isn't really you and get down to the authentic level. And life is so much sweeter when you're living from that vantage point, when you're not trying to be and chase and hustle. Relax, chill. Yeah. Understand that you got like this whole universe. This is you. You are the universe. It's conspiring in your favor all the time. You just got to get into alignment with that.
Definitely. So, before we let you go, kind of let everybody know how they can get a hold of the book. How can they get in touch with you for more information, things like that?
Absolutely. So, of course, you guys can follow me at Keba Richardson 1. This is my new page. My original page got hacked, so we had to start over. YouTube channel got taken down, so we're going to start that over as well. I'm also on TikTok, newly on TikTok, Keba Richardson on there as well. The link for my book is in my bio. You can also visit my website at KebaRichardson.com to receive a personally signed copy. And also, you can sign up for the free workshop. The link for that is in my bio as well. We're doing that this Sunday. It's called Master Your Manifesting Power. I'm going to be sharing 3 secrets I use to literally go from being dead broke, stuck in a toxic relationship for 10 years, losing everything, y'all, all of my money, all of my material possessions, losing my car, how I was able to manifest 2 multiple 6-figure businesses, leave my relationship, repair the relationship with my son, and really become a master at manifesting everything I desire. So I'm going to be giving you guys everything I did. And this is real information, because you can watch stuff like The Secret, and make vision boards, but most people don't know the work it takes to really make this stuff work for them, right, in a real way. So that's what I'm going to be teaching during the workshop. I also have the CBD store. For those of you who are interested in getting healthier, we have our organic CBD teas available at pwlc.store. That's the website for that. You can also shoot me an email, info@KebaRichardson.com. If you have any questions about anything, send me a DM. I do respond to my DMs. But that's where you can find me at. The book, the original, the first time around, we have it on Amazon, but we didn't do Amazon this time around. I may do the Kindle version on there. I'm not sure, but for now, we keeping everything in house. That's something that we got to do more of too as Black business owners. So yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Amazon, they take.
It's a lot. Oh my God, boy, that's a whole nother conversation to get into. So, but you feel me? Feel me?
I definitely do. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
And sorry. And we also have this time around the Journey of Unbecoming Manifestation Journal to go along with the book, because the book, after you finish reading it, you're going to be ready to get on your journey and start manifesting what you desire. So that was something that I felt like would be great to add to it. So that's available this time around too.
Definitely. I appreciate it. I always suggest the book to people. Y'all cannot have mine. Mine is signed for me, so you can't have mine. Don't hit me up asking me about the book. Go to Keba Richardson and get the book because it's not getting mine. I
It's a
promise you.
page turner. I had somebody tell me they had never read a whole book in their lives until they read my book, and they read it in one day. So it's very entertaining, y'all. So it's very raw, uncut, very real, very transparent, no sugarcoat on it, and I guarantee that you're gonna love the book. It's you're gonna love the book. I ain't gonna even lie. I just reread it again. I hadn't read it since 2020. I just reread it. I get emotional every time I read it because I see, like I'm like, man, I made it to the other side. Like I got through all that stuff, right? But I really realized, like, man, it's a powerful story. It's a powerful journey, and so many people are seeking this right now. We're in the age of awakening, so a lot of people are just naturally like, I don't know. They're seeking more. So y'all, this is a great time, and I can't wait to hear your feedback from it. So.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I really appreciate you joining me today. And when I get my new one, I'll post the new one. Y'all
Got
will
you.
not be
Got you. Yes.
y'all can't get the new one either. So when I get the new one, you can't have that one or the old one. So don't hit me up about
If you're in the Atlanta area, Georgia, wherever you are, I'm having a book signing tomorrow at a Black-owned bookstore. It's one of the busiest Black-owned bookstores in Atlanta and the surrounding cities, called Nubian Bookstore. So I'll be there tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. signing copies personally.
Black bookstores. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. We need more of them. We're running out of them, and we need them more, more, and more. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome. Y'all have a great night. Peace.
Have a good one. That was Keba Richardson, the author of The Journey of Unbecoming, a memoir. I told y'all I'm country as hell. I cannot pronounce memoir, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That's why I always say autobiography. But I really appreciate her joining me. That's one of the first books that I read when we started the Black Book Club, and one of the first interviews that we had when we started Quality Time. So having her come back and speak to us again is really kind of a really good moment for me personally and for the Black Book Club. So I appreciate that. We're gonna go ahead and check out here because I gotta go. My kids are a little too quiet. I'm starting to get nervous, so I gotta go. I appreciate everybody joining me today. Thank you.